No, I guess we just start because aware of the time that you guys do, and let's make best use of today. And if we have more people join, they're welcome to do so. Yeah. So the only fixed point I have today is at 11:30 we have a video conference from Christian Husselman, who will tell more about the DDoS mitigation approach that has been deployed with banks and technical community together. So that's an interesting story. And for the rest of the day, let's just see what comes up. And no need to firmly keep to the program with a group this size, right? So just a very quick reminder of what the Internet Infrastructure Initiative, III, stands for. It's really born from the realization that technology becomes more and more intrusive in our societies. And we need to use it as well because our societies get increasingly dense. So technology is there to help. Welcome. At the same time, it comes with dangers as well. And the dangers are partly because people don't know how to deal with it. And partly because we haven't put in the good practice everywhere that exists already somewhere. So what we try to do is, as a capacity building initiative supported by its members, a good number of countries, including Senegal. This workshop is sponsored by the Dutch Ministry of Economics. But there's also some major players and international organizations contributing to this. And it's really to help build a robust, transparent, and resilient internet infrastructure. So in that way, we hope to counter threats and to help people not to be confronted with them or to be more aware of them. As such, that's a precondition for the use of the internet as a public good, in the sense of good. So by going to the regions and bring global knowledge together with local knowledge, I think we get the best possible mix to advance things in the regions. And it's for that reason that GFCE is here also partnering in particular with the regional registries, but also other regional internet bodies, particularly in Africa. Africa CERT has been very active. Information Society, it's close to the mission of Internet Society as well, which is why they've been a natural partner in this as well over time. So it's really about targeting regions that are catching up, bring together regional stakeholders, government, business, technical community, civil society, raise awareness about open internet tools, get inspiration through good practice examples, and then at the end of the day, discuss together what to do best to advance this. So a joint commitment for action of the people in the room. Particularly here in Kampala, it's Africa's CERT, Afrinics, Background, FNOC, and Internet Society and ICANN that are actively supporting this workshop by their presence and by helping to prepare for this and informing their communities. And it's really about state of practice not being state of the art yet, trying to get state of practice to become state of the art. What to do to improve, justify trust in using the internet and email in the region. That's the purpose of this day. The gentleman here next to me is Jesse Sowell from also Global Initiative. the so-called MWOC, the anti-abuse working group on mobile messaging, etc. It's one of the resources that people in the regions aren't always aware of. And today we'll have Yuri join us from Cybergreen, which is another such body. And also at ICANN, we have some activities which Adil is talking a bit more. So the intent was to keep this agenda. Let's keep the order, but adapt the times. First, we talk about the open internet standards, what they are, and Adil and Alain will take us through that. Then we talk about some of these good practices, and let's see how the timing goes in the afternoon, whether we keep to that. But for sure, it would be useful at the end of the day to have a discussion on what's next. So for the inspiration block, the second block, so the first block is about standards. It's about particular routing, how secure routing, how to make sure people end up at the websites they need to be, how to know that emails come from where they should come from. And there's this beautiful online resource as well, internet.nl, that can help advance this. Block 2, I talked about the DDoS mitigation. That is at a fixed time point at 11:30. Really good advancement. Anti-abuse, led by Jean-Robert with Yuri and Adil. Mutual agreed norms for routing security is basically for ISPs, but it's also good for users to know what this is about, because users are the clients of ISPs, and they connect to that. Misuki will talk more about that. And last but not least, IoT deployment and secure IoT deployment. Wherever I go, it comes back on the agenda. It's really booming now, and people become aware that it's not all been set up that responsible up to now. And we are now in the period where we're moving from the early adopters and the amazingly fast booming early adopters towards becoming part of the infrastructure of society. So earlier events took place in Dakar last year, and hosted by also the African Internet Summit, in Almaty in Kazakhstan. Entirely different workshop in an entirely different environment, but also touching upon many of the same issues. In Delhi, more emphasis on IDNs, internationalized domain names, so non-ASCII code and universal acceptance. And in Dijon earlier this year as well. So this workshop is set up in a way that it's also transferable to other regions. So if you want to deploy this in other regions, all the means are there to support you. And this initiative is meant to go out. So this the support wouldn't cost you money. It's really there as a resource to help. And after today, for sure, in India, we'll be back in Kolkata. That's against the border of Bangladesh, which is also a region where there's a lot of interest in advancing the internet and making good use of it. And two other events are under exploration. So with that, I'm very happy to have Nii here to kick this off. And thank you for your support. And Alain, you two said that, well, it should be worthwhile to bring this back. And I appreciate that. And look forward to your inspiration. You want to turn that thing to me?
Thank you for continuing to engage with that conversation. And in particular for doing this during the afternoon period. I think that's a very good thing to have. I think that's a very good thing. Mainly because afternoon is well known community that's developed the capacity of all types of engineers. And doing this for an extended period. So joining it as a co-locating event here find very useful. I thought what I might say was life, not consistent problem. You know, as each step you take does come with in normal life. Yeah, we expect this to come. It's not exactly that, but still. So there are always unexpected things, and we evaluate it continuously. Assess, analyze, make decisions, and that has become part of how we live. People who sometimes sleep or because they didn't assess it correctly or judgment was not exact or calculation was not exact. So it's part of the norm from our way. That's important. Of course, there are known to occur unplanned, unexpected events in life. And sometimes they're not even under our control, because the external factors and such that one could not assess or sufficient. So these things do occur. I'm trying to set the place that every space has these kinds of things. Learn, build methods of addressing them as we go. Some of these situations, the intermediation is used, sometimes lost. In other cases, it's something like public service or I say public responsibility, which is used. Presumably the same will be true in our consideration of the new space that we are developing. Now, societies have accomplished some of these things within small communities, larger communities, our villages, our townships, our country. And it's not the same method across either. Meaning, depending on the situation, we evolve similar but slightly varied methods of addressing them. And I think it's important to see that as well. It's also appropriate for us to recognize that the mechanisms we adopt objectives of privacy. You have several objectives that whatever tools and methods we adopt are in essence trying to balance all these as well. And I can imagine in a new space it will be the same thing. Okay. Now we've done this not only in geographic space, we've done it in the oceans. We are doing the same thing like law of the sea and so on. I'm sure we're doing the same thing with real scientific space. And I can imagine we'll be doing the same thing in cyberspace that we are doing as well. I'm saying it's normal. It's normal. Okay. Of course, for this cyberspace, we are beginning to learn some things. And maybe it's worth noting some of them. We seem to know that the nature of this space, where people own different portions of it, that cooperation is an important area. I'm sure cooperation, cooperation, or collaboration, or anything to do with co, we have this is important because my university owns space, others own their space, but we are working together to create a bigger, better, safer space for all. So that's also important. It's also coming out that some level of education or awareness or preparedness is an important part of this thing. Partly because it's also moving, it's a moving target, it's changing. We don't know everything about it yet, we are learning. So some level of education, awareness, determination of norms and taboos and so on and so forth are all important part of the considerations. Exactly which ones is what we will learn as we evolve in this new cyberspace. I think it's also true that we need to coordinate more effectively, especially in response to whatever it is that we discover is not necessarily favorable. So we have to learn and establish channels by which this coordination can be fast enough so that our response will be equally effective. So I imagine that will be part of the discussion that you have. It's also true that for every space, there are some practices that in some sense defend against the risks, which you guys will call hygiene of sorts in the medical environment. But I can imagine there are equivalent things in the new space that we are trying to evolve. And that will therefore also be part of our deliberations and preparation for what this new cyberspace.
If it's clean.
Yeah, you gotta do something about that. You know, I don't know exactly what, but I imagine the experts are here and will be able to manage that as well. In some cases, we do require quote-unquote laws. We may require some laws. Now, if you bring the laws too early or too harsh, then it will kill some of your dreams as well. I imagine that also. So it's a question of where do you want to draw the boundary, how flexible do you want it to be, which things should be in laws, which things should be in policies, which things should be in just culture, or you have to somehow demarcate as we go. So I imagine those considerations will be equally important. Then in some cases, if you misbehave, you are told to stop, or there should be some deterrence so that people do not arbitrarily act. So there's some role for law enforcement, and exactly what that role is, we will need to struggle to determine where is most appropriate, most effective for us to do. So that too is another. Lastly, we need to be prepared to anticipate new issues because the internet has been changing from the very beginning since we joined, since AFNOG 2000 and so on. We've been seeing the evolution, and every one of the steps comes with its own risks and so on. And you have new major issues coming that I think will affect the way we think about these things. I won't go into them, but I think it's worth mentioning. The situation is fluid, and we think Africa has an important role to play. Perhaps the next growth in the sector will largely come from the continent. And so our preparedness, our engagement in this process will be able. Now, it so happens that right from the very beginning of this African Technical Initiative that we are co-locating with, starting with AFNOG, we had, security was an important part of those discussions. From 2000, I believe that there were presentations at the conferences on what to do to secure the environment. And so that has continued throughout. And so this is part of the continuous engagement and improving our environment as well. Now, since this is our celebration, we've also tried to provide, in the spirit of AFNOG, more hands-on things that we think may have a bearing on the discussions here. For instance, there's an ongoing tutorial on hands-on development of Internet of Things. And there's also things on blockchain, which we believe can also improve some of the trust issues. And all of them are hands-on. Here, our things are hands-on. So it may be useful that, there's some things also on cloud, hands-on. So we believe that with these new things coming, having more hands-on exposure can inform our thinking regarding these policy-related issues as well. So I hope while we are here, you will make some time and engage with the leadership in those areas and see what you can learn or expose them to regarding how to make the internet safe and improve the aftermath ecosystem or the AIS as a whole. So I'm pleased to see the engagement that is going on, and we will do our very best to support it and engage with the whole AF Star community as well. So thank you very much for.
Thank you very much. So you will be able to answer some questions too, right?
I think the questions are for you, not for me. I'm just passing.
Well, I think you sketched very well why it's important that we do this with government and industry and technical community, because you need to do it together. It's your sketch of this landscape where the measures need to be right to get the best out of it, right? So, yeah, I very much appreciate that. Well, thank you very much, Nii. Then the next part we would like to do is to give.
So I ask permission because I have to go to some other meeting at 10. So thank you very much.